Why, hello there. This is DJR, the High Score 510 podcast, and this week's episode is slightly different than our normal format. We have friend of the show, Professor Stephen Cleveland of Cal State East Bay, joining us to discuss the Supreme Court's most recent rulings on affirmative action. From there, we discuss Black history in America. We discuss the Oakland A's a little bit. We even discuss the N-word and women's existentialism somehow. I don't know. It just happened organically. I really enjoyed recording this episode because it really highlights the depth of the conversations that we've had with Professor Cleveland, but also just the free-flowing nature of it was awesome, and it just went many places that most times, Pedro don't let us get there, okay? Because he wants to keep it regular. But anyways, we hope you enjoy this show. If you enjoy it, share it with a friend, and please support Professor Cleveland's projects, the Educational Excellence Project, and A King in Paradise. Their links are in the show notes. Also, check out his LinkTree, which is also in the show notes. Anyways, it was also 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, y'all. Anyways, let's get to the episode. Without further ado, we present to you our latest episode, Affirmative Assets in Action, with Professor Cleveland. We hope you enjoy the show. The new Parkway Theater, where good food, diverse entertainment, and community create a place for everyone. For showtimes and special events, check out www.thenewparkway.com.
You are listening to High Score 510, where real talk is our vernacular.
Clarence Thomas is in confessional talking to his priest about why he went on those vacations with Harlan Crow. Pedro, let's start with you this time.
God, I got used to the champagne. Big boats and hoes. Bought my mama a house on a plantation. The temptation was way too much. Please forgive me, give me $2 million.
AG3, Clarence Thomas confessing about all those vacations with Harlan Crow.
Who'd you expect me to go on vacation with? A black man?
OBJ wasn't on that boat.
Professor Cleveland.
Here we go. Ain't no party like a white man party, because a white man party don't stop.
Yeah, so how things going with you, though?
I'm good, man. I'm actually hanging in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, you're in Alabama. Oh, I'm sure AG3 will be happy to hear that.
Yes, sir. I'm here hanging out with the fam.
Yeah.
Every now and again, you have to check on them, make sure they're good.
Okay. You say you're out there for another week?
Yeah, I'm here until the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, cool. Checking on everybody, making sure they're good.
Okay. How long you been there so far?
I've been here. When did we get to this place, man? We got here on Thursday, I guess.
Okay.
So I got in like late night Wednesday. Been here since Thursday. Had to work Thursday, Friday. Wherever I'm at, I'm working. So
yeah. Well, technology allows you to work remotely now, so I guess that's a benefit of technology.
Yeah.
Benefit and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say benefit and a curse, because work
sir.
can now follow you. You can't just check out.
Yes, sir.
You teaching classes this summer?
I am teaching, but I'm online, so it's not like, it ain't
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But
yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. I'm actually man, I love the class I'm teaching. I'm getting prepared. I'm gonna be focusing next year on supporting Black excellence, which is interesting because this reason why this whole decision hit me a little bit is because it's in the place that I'm working at right now, trying to figure out how to support even with, because in California, we haven't had affirmative action for years, right? Prop 209, get rid of that. So, figuring out how do we create safe spaces for Black folks because they're leaving to go to HBCUs, which is not like a surprise, right? Because that's the place that the people are seen and they're able to You know what I'm saying? It's like, it just makes sense. It's logical sense that people go there, unless they have, an experience like my daughter does, but she had me.
Yeah.
And I, had prepared her how to understand and work the system and find safe spaces and to connect with, but man.
Yeah.
It's a rough thing right now.
Well, yeah, I think that's one of the kind of hidden gates, or I would say gates, but one of the hidden walls. It's not really hidden. I think it comes down to access and knowledge of the accesses that you have. I think that's probably one of the biggest just filters that, the system, or the man, as I like to say, what I'm saying, keeps with a very, always keeps present, ever present, just if you don't even, if the access is there, but you have no, understanding or consciousness, or just even relative like knowledge of the access points, is how do you get there? How do you even utilize those access points? If it's like hidden doorways, you don't know the proper lever to pull, or what book on the bookshelf to pull out to open that hidden doorway. You get people who, might fall into it, or might make their way into it, but then even then just, even more limited resources. So I think that was something that was instilled in me. My parents working in education, primarily for underrepresented youth, in particular first generation college goers, is what my parents, worked in kind of cultivating and creating that knowledge of access for a lot of students of color, or low socioeconomic students. So I think that's something else that we can continue to elaborate on, especially with these more limitations being placed on things. So
Yep.
It's kind of crazy.
What's going on, Aaron?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, brother.
Aaron, you're gonna be jealous. You don't even know where Professor Cleveland's at.
Where you at?
I'm in Birmingham right now.
Oh, Birmingham?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, you down there with all the heat. I'm not too jealous.
Oh no, that is for sure, man. They got it on for sure. They got that oven.
You got the humidity, and is it near 100 degrees right now?
Well, today it was a nice cool 80, what we got? No, 92. It was 92 today.
Ooh, 92 and a cool breeze.
92. Ain't no cool breeze. It had breeze. The breeze ain't cool, but it was coming. That's the hot air. The hot air.
Yeah, we were trying to make a trip down there, and then Aaron and I got a new job, and they just, threw a bunch of new work on us, and it wasn't the right time to make a trip down to Alabama. We were trying to plan out a trip to New Orleans. We have a friend in New Orleans, and then drive up from New Orleans through Alabama, maybe check in with Aaron's family for a day or so, and then head up to North Carolina, where our other friend lives, Brandon. So, but didn't work out. It's probably better though, because it probably would have been killing us with that heat.
For sure.
You sit in the car with the air conditioner. Are you down there for fun or for work?
For fam, it's fam time. So I was just checking on the elders and the new ones, got some new babies that I haven't met yet, within the last 2 years. And so just seeing people I hadn't met and checking in on the elders.
Okay.
You gotta act like you got sense, since they don't have no sense sometimes. You have to have sense for the whole group.
You have to bring more to it.
Yeah. You can't be sitting on that like, oh, they ain't coming to see me, so I ain't gonna go see that. You have to be on it. Grown man and shit. So all right, I'm here.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Did y'all see what's going on in some irregular internet?
I'm not on the internet as much as you, Jared, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I found I do want to get your take on this, Professor Cleveland. What is your take on the tragedy of Ocean's Gate?
Man, I don't know. I have not. I missed it. Oh, you mean that all the people under the sea? That thing?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's all the people. It's like a couple people, a few.
No. I'm talking about you. You talking about the hundreds of people that died in Greece?
Oh, no.
Is that what you're
We're not
talking
worried
about?
about that. Nobody cares about that.
I was just trying to
about-
say, like, I was like, are you talking about the real tragedy? The fact that like all those human beings lost their lives, or are you talking about these fools who decide to take a chance and shit? Like I'm saying, I'm not, man, people take chances all the time, but it's hard to feel sorry for somebody. They're like, man, they caught me selling drugs. That's fucked up. Like, no, dude, you on the corner selling drugs. You know what the fuck happens when you on the corner selling drugs? Like, I know there's some systemic issues to put your ass in that situation, but damn, you chose a thing and you knew some consequences. I mean, if they got tough love for Black people who go to jail for selling drugs, and I guess you should have tough love for billionaires who lose their lives doing some shit underneath the sea. But
That's right.
My humanity has room to fill for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like it really is sad that they lost their lives. But again, it's like one of those things that Black people just won't do. Like certain things, some certain rooms we don't walk in, certain places we don't like roll into, and that's some shit that like, oh man, I don't know, going underneath the sea and some shit he made.
Sympathy
made?
and sadness is a spectrum, so it's on the lower end of that spectrum.
I mean, it's what it is. It is fucked up. Like Barack said, it's fucked up that we give so much attention. I think about JonBenet Ramsey, right? Like, I think the year she died in the Bay Area, there were like a serial killer who was like capturing little Black girls, and at the same time, there was nobody reporting on like dozens of Black girls, girls of color, but Black girls specifically. I think I'm lifting up there that went missing at the same time.
Was it JonBenet or Polly Klaas?
Yeah, it was JonBenet Ramsey.
JonBenet was the one when they
Was
had
she-
all
JonBenet
the,
Ramsey.
yeah.
Was
They
she
had
from? Oh yeah, okay.
Poly
she's a little-
class. I don't think poly class hit as much. See, you're in the Bay
It
Area.
was a Bay Area that hit.
Yeah,
No,
that hit
you're
the
talking
Bay
about
Area.
Bay. You're talking about Bay. I'm just saying at
You're
the
talking
time.
about
They
JonBenet,
JonBenet,
that hit all
yeah.
over.
Yeah. Well, that shit was on everywhere, right? But at the same time, you had multiples of Black kids in Oakland missing. And
Yeah.
on the Oakland news, they were covering JonBenet Ramsey. So
Uh-huh.
in Oakland,
You got kids
this
missing.
little white girl from far, far away missing was more important. And I think it does say a little bit about our values, and I think the anti-Blackness that we face oftentimes is sort of masked in expert gaslighting. They talk about Black men invented gaslighting. No. We learned. We learned from the best. We're like, what's wrong with you, man? Why don't you own no houses, man? What's wrong with Black people? Why don't they own houses? Like, oh, it wasn't redlining going on, right? There was not, before that, there was not the Homestead Act that allowed white people to get free shit, and we didn't get none, right? There was not GI bills that Black folks returned home and weren't able to buy property in neighborhoods. That shit didn't happen. But right now, 73% of white folks own houses, and only 44% of Black people own houses. That's a fact right now. But the question is always, depends on when the storyteller starts the camera, right? If you start the camera the day, then you're like, you don't know why. Why do these people have this disparity? And you start answering that question with anecdotal shit you'd observe about Blackness, right? But if you look back, you'll say like, it started at the start of this country when we were in shackles and they were giving out free parcels of land to white people. That's when it started, this whole disparity. And so it's pretty amazing that we do as well as we do. We're pretty fucking awesome group of people to be able to overcome this many obstacles that exist. And so here we go. SCOTUS throws us another obstacle. And we like the fucking masses we are going to respond to it excellently. And that's the shit that I live on, man. I really, we've been fighting these fights for so long. The ebb and flow of this is not like a surprise or shock or nothing. So I just do think that there are people who make their money off of being aghast about shit that's like, I think that the more than anything, it's just like the reminder to white women that when they took away the right for them to have abortions. I was like, man, they be slapping white women around like they don't know. They need their vote. They better go and be careful about this because that's the constituency to me. And if you think about it in a civil rights era time frame, right? You think about it in terms of the tactical thing. They're aligning us with white women again, which we all know Jared is never disaligned with white women, right? Like, but you know, but what I'm saying that like, as a people, they are aligning us with white women.
Aligned and inserted.
Yes. So we are now on the same path with Jared. And I think when we look at tactics moving forward, white women are going to be important to us as we sort of look to fight back against this systemic racism bullshit.
I got a great strategy for this. All right. We got to start cultivating young people of color going to Starbucks and other beautiful Anglo coffee shops and ordering pumpkin spice and even, dare I say, gingerbread lattes. And sitting down and having a conversation.
Is it that time of year again?
It's getting close. It's getting close.
No, not even close.
It's nowhere near close. It's too hot for any pumpkin spice lattes, man.
You can get an iced pumpkin spice latte.
I'm sitting up here in 112-degree weather. A white woman is in a bikini.
We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you one, Pedro. Don't worry. We're gonna start a GoFundMe. Well, I guess it can't really be a GoFundMe, but it's gonna.
No, you can't traffic white women.
No, but we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you enough money to where you can dress yourself appropriately to attract a beautiful white woman that will then say, "Oh yeah, let me get a piece of that dark chocolate that you are, Pedro."
Oh my gosh. I just got to get out. I don't hang out like I used to. So.
Well, yeah, because you moved to Arizona and it's fucking 10 degrees right now.
Yeah.
No. That's not the point. My wife is just in the way.
Is your wife in the way of you having your side piece? Is that what you're trying to explain to me?
Yes, she's in
damn, man.
And my son. His son is on 1-1 right now, so I gotta look out for the family before I soil my royal oats.
So your non-royal oats?
My hood rat oats.
The funniest part is that fits with the percentage of black men. Black men, the whole sort of stereotype of black men being out the home is just out of touch with the numbers. The numbers don't show that. Mm-hmm. So you are one of those actual black men who represent the majority of black men who stay connected with their families. You know what I mean? No. So look at you.
Prop Dave, Cleveland. So this made me uncomfortable one time. So I went to one of those family meetings with my son with the autism. You know, he has autism. So I went to not a family one, but they have a medical structure out here in Arizona. And the lady told me, "It's like, wow, you are bringing him to all the doctor's appointments and the counseling appointments. Man, you just don't see that in the fathers. You don't see it in the fathers." I'm like, what is it seen in the fathers? And at the same time, in the office, there was another dude in there with his daughter. But I see where she was going. She said she wanted to say, "I don't see black man in there with their father." You know what I mean? So I was like, man, you just out and open type. Right. I'm like, man, this was like, what was this like? Dang, it's probably about 8 years ago from that.
You know, It's funny. I come from a home where my dad was there the whole fucking time. Like, it's just an interesting sort of world. And then I, too, am in a household where I was there the whole fucking time.
Right.
Go figure. So,
yeah, I wish my dad would leave the house more often. I'm like, Dad, can y'all go on vacation or something? Like, I'm trying to have the house to myself, especially in high school. It's like, dang, it'd be nice to have that. I'm good enough to take care of the house. I can take the bus and get to and from school. Y'all can go somewhere.
You just the opposite, Jared. I was hoping my dad would be around. I would have married some of these trifling ass women. Shit. He definitely know. You knew how to pick them.
Oh, there you go. It's funny. You needed some leadership on that.
I need some black leadership.
There you go. That's funny. I fucked around and married somebody who I actually liked. Fucking wrong with me.
Hey, that's what I've been trying to preach to people. I was like, look, man, marry your best friend, man. Y'all don't. If you got a best friend that you can marry her. Be with her. Anything to be around her. Yeah. These kids out here chasing fantasies and.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, man. I'm gonna share some real. So I was like, basically, we were staying with our family, And some of the people in the room with me, well, some of the people in the house with me are a little bit more conservative than I am. And so I was like, I know we're going to get into some real, probably progressive ass thoughts over here that want to like offend anybody. I was like, hey, baby, I'm going to go get a hotel room so that I could go and have a conversation with Black men about the shit that's happening. And she was like, all right, baby, let me drive you. You know what I'm saying? No, that's some shit, right? That's some shit right there. Like, it's a whole bunch of other conversations you can have. But if you're married to somebody who'd be like, yeah, that sounds like a thing you should do. That's what the fuck is up. I'm telling you, man. Yeah. Because it's a lot of people marry people who are princesses and they go and spend their lives taking care of them and living up to some shit that don't make no sense. And I'm like, man, fuck that. Like, I mean, not that like, you shouldn't take care of your woman, but I'm saying if it's 98% of the job, then you probably fucked around and did something that it's not sustainable.
Right.
That's why I like a beautiful white woman that knows how to stand her place.
Hilarious. You sound like you done found some old, olden day white women. I don't know no white women. Like, the fuck you talking about?
She can't cook, but she be doing all the weird shit, like pouring raw pasta in with the raw ground beef and then pouring cheese on top and putting it in the oven for 30 minutes and being like, it's cooked, it's ready.
Man, that sounds like I don't know.
Sound like casserole hell.
It sounds like you go into like a third world country and shit and finding something like you talking about these Czechoslovakian women. You talking about
you talking about Eastern Bloc. You talking about
Eastern
Bloc.
Saying like you trafficking over there. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't no American women showing up the way you talking about.
They you haven't seen those videos online where it's like there's a couple of these women who basically they have like they already look like they well off. They got a nice ass kitchen and they're like, oh, we're gonna make, I saw one last night. This woman took raw chicken, dumped it in a tub of peanut butter, coated with peanut butter, took slices of white bread, cut off the edges, and then rolling pin the white bread down till it was like not a paste, but it was just like a thick whatever. She cut in slices and then wrapped that chicken coated in peanut butter with the white bread. Then she had the nerve to take gingerbread cookies and cinnamon toast crunch, smash it up into a powder. She took the chicken drumsticks that was with the white bread and the peanut butter, dipped it in egg wash it, and then dipped it into the gingerbread cinnamon toast crunch powder, and then put it in the air fryer for 30 minutes. And apparently she acted like she was taking a bite at the end of the video. Video ended, but it's like, these are the kind of things that I follow online sometimes. I don't, I try not to.
I think that's a knock against you, not her.
I mean, I gotta say, man, you sound like you got some fucked up shit going on.
Taking notes. I was taking
knock against you, man.
Jared, man.
As I said, read a book. Be better. It was better serve your time.
Be better at life, Aaron. Right?
Exactly. I can't get mad at her for not knowing how to cook. That might be passed on generations not know how to cook. You the one sitting there watching it.
Yeah, and thinking to yourself.
And guess what? You ain't getting better at cooking by watching that.
You thinking to yourself, I need a woman like this.
Exactly.
Hetty has some big ass titties.
I think it is for shock value. Obviously, they do it for shock value, trying to get people to get clicks. But it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous amount of it's a waste of food.
So be very clear. It does seem to feed into your isms. You may have a stereotype built in your head. And I hope you find that non-cooking, subservient white woman. You know what I mean? I hope you find that and it fulfills you. Or as with most things, you wish you had prayed more specific because you've been doing that shit. And be like, damn, man, why am I always sick? Like, I don't understand. I was perfectly healthy and I married this lady and now I'm always sick.
I'm always on the toilet.
Hey man, so why do you have the Oakland A's near you right now? Fuck them.
You know what? It's Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart, Oakland legend. So, but I actually I have a friend who does event planning, and she was planning the Dave Stewart because they retired his jersey last season, and so she was planning they were putting on like a little event in West Oakland. As like a little party / roast, and it was like in his honor the night before they did the retirement ceremony at the game the next day. And so she's like, hey, I know you're a big A's fan. would you, be down to, help set up a little bit, and then you can just hang out and like check out this. It's gonna be like a roast. There's gonna be former players from the teams and a bunch of people from like a bunch of executives and media members from CSN and the team and friends and family. So it'd be a cool event, and they have some other like, dope stuff going on there. So I was like, yeah, definitely. So I went there like an hour early, helped set up a couple things. And for the first like part of it, just kind of, went around and like helped bust some stuff. And then once they started like the actual like roast and people started talking and they had everyone up on stage, like I just got to chill, get food and have some drinks and watch that. So that was actually a cool little event. So that's why I got this jersey, and that's why keeping it up.
No, I gotta say I hella love the A's, man. It was really like the A's were a big part of the swag of Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The East Bay sort of thing. I was like, anti-Giants, and now I'm got to be a fucking Giants fan. The last shit left in the Bay Area. That's crazy, ain't it? That's crazy.
Oakland
Orange
roots.
Motherfucking black.
Oakland roots.
Yeah. Well, is that supposed to make me feel better?
Yeah,
We lost all our shit.
All that makes me say is you need to root for Oakland High School at that point.
I'm saying, man, I feel like we one of those cities again, right? We get Oakland, be back to like community colleges, like Laney. Let's follow Laney.
Come on. Yeah, well, the Oakland Roots seem to be pretty good. Every time I see a clip on Instagram of them, they're scoring a goal. So
they're like low division soccer, man. You don't want to watch MLS. This is what I don't understand. People who talk crap about the MLS sit there and say, man, I'm going to go to Oakland Roots game. I'll watch Oakland Roots. It's lower than MLS, people. It's worse soccer. It's crappy. No.
But they do got a bunch of brothers on the team, too. So that's another positive.
Yeah, so does Oakland Tech. So Oakland High got a bunch of brothers on the team. Oakland High full of brothers. McClymonds full of brothers.
I love that.
Gotta start rooting for
bring it back, man. We just need to give them a platform. Let's just lift it up. Fuck it. Like,
Yeah.
No need. But it is, I love Vegas, but I just, I don't know about organized sports no more, y'all. I haven't watched NFL since Oakland announced they were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coincided with with our boy from San Francisco,
Kaepernick,
the small kneeling thing, right? So it was those two things of like the anti-blackness that I saw coming from owners, and then the anti-regular people shit is really at the core of it. And I think the SCOTUS thing is there too. I think that what we are looking at right now is that rich people are really good at hiring people to promote and articulate their points of view, right? Like PR marketing is all about storytelling. Mm-hmm. And for them to sell these stories to make it look like Oakland's a bad actor in this fucking thing. Oakland gave $900 million to make a stadium for them, which they are still paying on, right? And they're asked them to do $1 billion stadium to replace that stadium while they still owed over half the money on. And this is a organization that is a nonprofit organization that is making billions of dollars. And they're asking public institutions, tax dollars, our money, right? They don't want our tax dollars to go to pay for little Negro kids to get an education, but they're okay with our tax dollars to go to pay for the NFL to bring fucking teams around and to underwrite them. It's just, I think that we have, aligned ourselves with billionaires, with the interests of billionaires, and we've lost sight of who the fuck we are. And I think we are fighting the wrong people. In the same way I said we need to align with white women tactically to move stuff, because they're going to get hit by affirmative action going away hard. Mm-hmm. They're the ones, the beneficiaries are white women. They don't know it yet. When they start seeing the fact that women outnumber men in college now, it used to be men far outnumbered women, right? But now women outnumber men, and that was in part because of affirmative action. And so when we start seeing women not getting accepted and we start seeing that impact, I think it's going to be that will allow us an opportunity then to align with them as we're pushing for Black folks to have access. But, this is another thing that is pushing Black folks into thinking about things like, I know I've talked to a lot of families, and Black families not feeling like going to college makes economic sense for them, right? And so, that's a battle at this moment anyway. Why? Because average income of Black folks when they graduate from college is $59,000. The average income of white folks when they graduate is like $74,000. So it's like this, 15K difference in what your starting salaries are, which, plays out over time. You get raises based off that initial salary, right? That gap, stays there. And I think that that's the piece that's making Black folks ask themselves, like, man, is it the debt worth it for me to make this money, right?
Yeah.
And so, these are the things that I think that I'm excited actually to be in the work, in the leadership of trying to figure out how we do better. And so I think that we have to get out of the reactionary phase and space of being surprised by them being themselves. Like, what did DMX say? Trust motherfuckers to be themselves, right? Like, you got to trust them to be themselves. Is this a surprise? This conservative body, right, that's been really conservative, moved really conservative after Trump appointed these judges. Is it a surprise they're doing conservative shit?
No, not at all. That's what I told people. Like, how can you be surprised? Look what the Supreme Court has made right now, right? It's going to be a time that you're going to see some things get flipped right now. This is where we at. This is where we at. Instead of being surprised by it, just be lined up and ready to go next time. Be ready to vote for the right people. Be ready to get people in office. Get ready to talk to your people, and stop turning a hero into some Supreme Court justice to the point where they don't think ahead and think of the bigger picture and retire, right?
What hero are you talking about, AG3?
I don't know. I guess I'm talking about someone whose face and 3 initials was all over T-shirts, and it's not AG3.
Notorious B.I.G.?
It's not the Notorious B.I.G., but it was some people that got turned into a hero, had movies made about them, and just refused to retire, even though they underwent 2 bouts of cancer and was at the age of 80, reaching the age of 80. And even though one of the presidents pulled her in the office, one of the Democratic, and talked to her about it, put her into a private meeting, talked to her about it, she held on. I think it was some selfishness there, but I mean, I can't say, who am I to say, maybe I wouldn't have done the same thing, but some justices think ahead and they look at who's in office and what could happen and say, okay, maybe it's time I hit this retirement button, give you a chance to. So this is just where we're at right now. So you're trying to say that it wasn't just American people voting for that guy over Hillary Clinton, which is the lesser of two evils. I think it's a whirlwind of things, right? It's never just one thing. Yeah. I think we hit this, I think there was a vast reaction among whiteness in non-liberal areas to Barack Obama being in office, right?
For 2 terms.
For 2 terms that we hit that we hit this where we're at. I think it was the fact that, when they filibuster, so Obama couldn't get his last Supreme Court justice in, right? Mm-hmm. And then to have RBG, have her pass away, during Trump's 1 term. How many Supreme Court justices did he get to put in?
I think he put in 3.
3. Yeah. He put in 3. I mean, that was
Kavanaugh, Comey Barrett, and
you figure, if Obama got his 2 in, then maybe we'll be in a different place. I mean, it's a whirlwind of things. It's not just one thing. I don't think you could just point at one thing and say we're at this conservative time. I mean, but we survived the 80s at a conservative time. Remember, the Supreme Court was really conservative during the 80s. Late 70s, early 80s. So, I mean, I like what you said earlier about Black people striving, and we get through these things instead of harking on it. So I don't say don't place it to the side and don't talk about it, but let's not act like it's not. We can get through it. I like what you said there, Professor Cleveland. Like, we can get through it just like we have before.
This is just white people's revenge. They know what they're doing. This is by design. I'm disappointed in Obama for not, pushing through on some of the, trying to get people in the court for that. But like I said on this show before, like you just said, all the Democrats and Republicans it's so soiled by the big money. They're going to do what their corporate donors want. Okay. They're not here for the people. They're here to get paid. And no matter who we put in office, until we get the money out of politics, the conservative whites are going to still push all their agenda to try to save. Okay, nothing's going to change until you get money out of politics.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, money in politics it's not. That's
They
not
go hand
going
in
to
hand.
come out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Politics
You don't
was
respect change. You're not going to get the change.
no
Because
politics was created.
They got the power. They got the weapons.
Right.
We can't fight. You can't go out and just. What has protesting done all this time? Nothing.
Protesting did a lot. Stop that shit. Come on.
But no.
It did.
All
So
it did is to put us on a level just below the white. Okay, white people here.
Nope.
Black people came here. We came here. White folks is always going to be here.
That's some fake news, sir. That's some fake news. I'm not going to let you do it. So it's okay. It's okay for us. It's okay for us to say that we haven't gotten enough. And I'm with you on that. There has not been enough for what we have given. But the world that MLK was living in is far different from the world we're living in. I mean, I literally am able to fly. Like I can drive in places that I never could drive before. There is still, this particular last 5 years have been a little bit less freer, right? Because Trump made people okay to come out. Like there used to be, people were afraid because the federal government was so reactive to white people doing crazy shit and making things unsafe that like now under Trump, he didn't label them hate groups, right? He was like, all right, those are homies, it was a different sort of thing.
Very good people on both sides.
So it made people feel a little more comfortable with their attacks. But to be clear, the world is a better place because of the sacrifices that we made. Now, the world is a much better place for white women than it should be. They got more benefits, in particular, talking about affirmative action. White women benefited the most from affirmative action. It really changed their lives in ways that it didn't change ours as much, right?
Changed my life too. Man, that sexual existentialism, they freaky.
He had sex with my mama.
Jared and his thing. I get it.
See, I disagree because black women are starting to be freaky with the new internet.
No, but they're coming along.
I think it's a different level.
No, white women have been able to be freaky for a couple of decades now, and they figuring things out.
Different level.
Man,
they
figuring things out. You don't want me to get into black sexuality. Now, the whole point of black women's sexuality has been about the vision of all of the Jezebel, fighting against that image. So to not want to be seen that way, and the hyper conservatism that exists with us around sexuality that's rooted in the church, right? So those two things have really made it difficult for black women to get their freak on. And I think that we're in an age where we're seeing a shifting of that, where folks are not as beholden to the church anymore because the church is losing its influence on black people. Can I get an amen?
Amen. They sure are. My mom won't do nothing without Jesus.
If you let it hell.
So I think the young people, the young women are most definitely getting their freak on because black sexuality is becoming a little bit less taboo. And I don't think that they're still sort of afraid of being called the Jezebel. I think there's a little more freedom that's happening.
Well,
so
the world's become more licentious than it has been in the past.
Licentious?
More than just licentious. I learned that word.
I was like, you sure you pronounced it right?
Probably pronouncing it all wrong.
I was like, the fuck is he talking about?
Licentious, man. It's the perfect way of explaining our morality. Let me spell it for you.
Licentious?
I'm going to spell it for you, man. Hold on.
Professor about to get educated.
Well, yeah, no, I think there is, especially with over the last, 15, the Kardashian era in many ways has been a major influence over young women and young people as influencers and, being, one of the spawning sources of this influencer culture, you could say, and their imagery and their appropriation of black
enough of that shit. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, licentious. Licentious. Licentious, an adjective, promiscuous and unprincipled in sexual matters.
Licentious?
Licentious. There you go. I spelled. Okay, so I was pronouncing it wrong.
It's like licensing to do something.
Licentious.
Yes. Now that's a word.
First
one, I was like, what the hell?
Aaron, you getting a magic moment for that?
Give me a magic moment for that. At least give me a credit for trying to pronounce it.
I thought
at least I knew the meaning. I knew the meaning. I didn't know how to pronounce it, but I knew the meaning.
I like
Like chitlins? Like
I knew the meaning of the word, just didn't know how to pronounce it.
I thought you said a slur about Asian people. I was like,
Licentious, dude. It's more, the world's become more sexually promiscuous than it has been in the past with our society changes, morality, values change, and things in that nature.
Amen to that.
So it's Pedro's favorite thing is a lot more irregularity in the bedroom.
No, it's not.
No. Don't try to get that man in trouble. What you talking about, Brad?
Pedro likes regular sex. That's his thing. He always talking about keep it regular. So, but
sex shame.
Pedro basically wants to bring back the rules the Puritans have of sex, where you just have a hole in a sheet.
She wears underwear with dick holes in them.
You sleep in separate
you
beds.
keep the lights off. You sleep in separate beds.
This is the idea about This is my idea about sex. Wow. It's just imagine Danny Glover and Whoopi Goldberg. The color purple.
Nobody else.
But that's all we need. It's getting too crazy out here. It's getting
so funny.
Crazy. That's all I'm saying.
Crazy.
Way too crazy.
I mean, I think we're just getting insight into that, it's like America is going through the 70s from the white people's perspective as a whole country. It's just like, why able to do shit?
There's a lot of, there's cultural norms that are getting, being negotiated, navigated, and there's pushback and there's pull. And, hopefully we'll find, I wouldn't say necessarily the center, but I would say a more righteous leaning center. And I guess righteousness is subjective, so I can't necessarily say that. But.
I mean, you don't have no women in this room, so we can't have a real full-on sexual conversation. I mean, men vision of sexuality is really from the male gaze.
I've been trying to have Jared get more women on the show instead of us making all these reckless speculations about what women want and need.
No.
Well, you're the only one. You're the one making them more than anybody else. Hold on.
They don't need more. Exactly. They just need to do regular with
you making that weird. I ain't said nothing about no woman.
I said Jared. I said Jared.
I'm looking at it from the understanding of the fact that the lens by which we formulate much of our sexuality has been a male dominated, coming from a Christian basis, even like, that being infused into it. So me looking at it with the understanding of this is the lens, I can see how it impacts my perspective or how it, infused its way in me understanding the world. So I can also, in some degree, have some relative as an empathetic person say, well, if it's for my thoughts on sexuality or this, that, and the other in this way, like somebody from this background or somebody that lives this lifestyle, I could see it having similar effects, though different, because the root of what was being portrayed and projected onto us or valued upon us is still the same. So like it does affect us differently from our different places in the world. But if I can at least look at it and understand it and like critique it from stepping back from that lens, then I think I can give some astute assessments on what are some of the options that people might prefer to have for themselves as an independent, person that's thinking for themselves and has a variance in their experience, that it isn't simple right or wrong. It isn't simple, this is the way you live your life, or this is the way you engage in your intimacy and relationships, but that, saying there's a plurality
of
things.
Explanation.
It really was. I was like, I feel like I'm in the She's Gotta Have It era Spike Lee conversation right now. I was like, this motherfucker.
I feel like it's either that
2 hours of my life.
The emancipation of the proclamation.
Or it's that guy from In Living Color that was just sitting in jail. A mind is a terrible thing to raise.
Yeah. You need to fornicate.
You need to advocate and fornicate.
It's either one of those.
Ooh, Lord, man. All that shit to justify your love for white women, man. That was a lot of stuff. That was a lot of stuff. All I'm saying is this. I think that, like, in terms of where we are in terms of understanding Black sexuality, I think we all are evolving into a space where we can actually talk about it. I think, our parents didn't talk about sex, that was just a whole generational thing, but it was even more scarred, post-slavery Black folks. It's just like we have a lot of disconnected with it. and the Puritanism that was brought into us, right? The weird thing where masters were able to rape Black women, but we didn't talk about sex among the crew because we didn't really have sex, for a long time without it being sanctioned, right? So there's a lot of derivative of that in terms of how we play out. And so understanding that, yes.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. So I'm more into having slavery sex.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Jesus, dude.
Good Lord.
This nigga.
Good Lord.
Just said, Black people didn't enjoy sex when we were slaves. We were out there reproducing.
I'm sure some people enjoyed it.
I mean, they enjoyed it.
And I'm sure you
probably enjoyed it more than the women.
I'm sure you'll figure out some way not to enjoy it, but I'm sure some people did enjoy it.
Will be like,
all our fans just have slavery sex and everything will be okay.
Right. So I will be reaching out to a friend of mine who's a psychologist who can help you work through that shit. That's some deep.
Is he also able to prescribe him some drugs too?
Yeah. You mean the Viagra type?
Anything. Gas station drugs, any drugs, prescribe him.
Well, even in that, but like you got me thinking about like the way Black women were treated in slavery. They were still property. White women, in many regards, were also a form of property, but property with some rights or some value that, like the slaves, was property that was just could be thought of in the realm of a disposable, like the same way that you would just discard and throw some away. Kill it if you wanted to, do whatever you wanted to. Whereas the white woman had the protections of like, if you wrong this property, there will be repercussions for this property on a much greater level than if you wrong my slave property. And from those starting points in this country to see like kind of how those psyches of these two different, these women, but two different, origins of women have evolved, like you can extrapolate, I think a good amount from that. And it's
you can. Well, and the other part is just, man, being said that you're beautiful, like to have a whole motherfucking country tell you you're beautiful all the damn time will make you feel yourself. Like that's the reason why Black men feel themselves, right? Like this shit is like, we are like, people be like, they hate us, but they be like, those motherfuckers are fine though. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though, so just having that thing where you feel like you are the shit, like it really does reinforce it. And I think that that's a piece that as a father to two young Black women, right? Or, as a father to two women and thinking about sort of what it means to be a Black woman, it's like, how do we do that? I mean, because that's the weirdest shit that I always think is that men feel like the chastity of their young girls is their responsibility. And I thought that's the most pedophilic piece of shit I've ever got. It's like, they'll be like, I got to protect that because no one else is like, nah, bro, you should want them to feel like the best humans that they can feel. And sexuality is a part of that, right? And I think that's a part of what it is. So when you have a patriarchal worldview, right? When you have this fathered worldview where you see sexuality as a thing that you're protecting or releasing or whatever, and you're like,
you control. It's under your control,
right? I want someone who's never given it up to nobody except for my hoe. Like I want my hoe to be giving it up at any time, right? And so it's this weird sort of thing when you don't allow folks to self-determine their own sexuality when it's your control. That's the challenge of patriarchal worldview on sexuality. But
that's Pedro's sex life. We call him One Hole Pedro.
Got it.
Well, shouldn't
that might be the shithole. He don't even know what's underneath that shithole.
No. I can. Hey,
could be a bowl of warm Jello.
It could be a warm cobbler.
So
a cup of warm Jello. That's all you got.
What other holes should I go in?
Brother, I do think that a psychologist.
Obviously, it sound like the LA Unified School District failed you. In your health class, dude.
No, when I was in health class, I seen a picture of a beautiful. It was a picture of two eggs on one. There was one egg on one side and another egg on the other side, and it was a long tube.
I don't know what the hell happened at Crenshaw High. You know why they probably did that? Because they figure at Crenshaw High, everybody's having sex anyway.
So no, he probably is. Yeah, I know who taught him the sex ed class. It was Donald Sterling and the AIDS epidemic.
What has he done? Can you tell me? Big Magic Johnson, what has he done?
Well, he's a business person.
He's got AIDS.
Magic Johnson. What is he done?
I don't know how he did it. We went through health during the middle of the eggs. We were in 10th grade when Magic Johnson made that announcement. That's the year you had the health class. Obviously, they felt Pedro that year. they really spent time that year. They spent time teaching us because they wanted to make sure we was being as safe as possible.
Starting at midnight tonight, the sheriff's department will no longer detain.
Who was that?
That was me. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I thought that was a new soundbite. That's why I got quiet. Like, listen to this one. Jared got a new soundbite up.
I got some new sound bites playing. What was that? It started. What was that? A news blurb about something?
Yeah. It was. What was that about? I'm trying
Breaking
to think
news. Breaking
news. Yeah, it was just another thing about just Black people in America.
Okay.
You know, I've been listening to a lot of these clips that coming in to talk to try to give people a context of what this decision really looks like, and it's really it really further explains that, like, I mean, it's the best example of gaslighting. It's like, all right, see, the issue is now we have this reverse racism thing, right? That's basically being racist in reverse, right? Mm-hmm. This is an argument your 6-year-old would make to go get pizza, right? Or to get candy before they have dinner or some shit. Like, we gonna just reverse, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna have, it's the same thing, right? But it's just, and so that's just this crazy thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't acknowledge the impact of systemic racism from slavery through things like the Homestead Act, through things like separate but equal, right? All of these things that we had, these moments America had to do better, right? And I think that's an opportunity that Barack Obama did represent. Mm-hmm. And I understand the critique of him, but he represented an opportunity for America to do better. And in the face of that opportunity, we choose to do the thing that doesn't really fucking matter. Because I'm going to be clear with you, I'm American as fuck. And there was a time where I wanted to leave this country and I was really frustrated and like, fuck this place, right? The same way all the Black folks are leaving California now, like moving to places that have smaller GDPs, that have less money. I was like, we gotta just stop getting caught up by this whole storytelling, right? The reality is this is our country. Our people have fought and died for it much more so than many other groups who are here claiming the resources that we have. It's necessary for us to claim the things that we are due. And so it requires us to be in the business of storytelling. And so we just need to do better at articulating the issue here. And the issue is that when you look at America, right, we know what the impact of this whole thing was. In Michigan, they got rid of affirmative action. It went from 7% of Black folks in college to 4%. In California, we got rid of affirmative action. We went from 7% of Black folks there to 3.43%, right? Less than half of that number went down and got chopped. And so the reality is that we already were representing less than a percentage of the populations in these states, right? In terms of being at 7%. But now we're going down even further. And then the truth is that the people who took those spots are not your good old fashioned white people, right? It ain't poor white folks who are taking these spots. These spots were filled by foreigners. They were filled by Asian folk. They were filled by the people who are doing better already through these systems, right? And so I think that we just have to really tell better stories, right? To help people understand it. Like, you're not going to free the spots. You're trying to free spots, then let's stop giving away legacy shit. Like, those people are idiots, some of them. Like, think about W, who seed his way through college, but he's a legacy guy, right? So these are the things that I think we just have to tell better stories. And so for me, I agree. Being reactive, there's no real upside to that shit. So for me, like, I feel that it's a sad day in the same way when those people went underneath the sea and they died. Like, that's a sad day. But we lost this Supreme Court battle when we allowed Trump to get those people elected. So we lost it because we decided in the short term, fighting against, Hillary Clinton, who is fucking racist, right? To be clear. Right. Her policies, Biden policies, were bad for Black folks. They were the racist ass policies. But in the short term,
I like the 3-strike law.
Well, I mean, amen to all of these. Right? I'm saying there's so much there.
What constitutes a felony, though?
Yeah,
that might be the other issue, though.
But I mean, you think about it, because California is at the forefront of all of these things. So California, the most progressive, state in the union, is at the forefront of all of these things. So to be clear, I think we have to be critical of our friends in the same way we do to people who are not. And so for me, it's like, I was talking to someone and they were like, the lesser of two evils, And I was like, the lesser of two evil is not a long-term strategy. The lesser of two evils is a short-term strategy. It is the best, most correct short-term strategy there is. Lesser of two evil in a moment. I got a cop who shoot me, or I got a cop who arrest me. Arrest me, please. Right? Like, lesser of two evil. But it don't mean I don't want to go to jail. But
I think a lot of people, the plan stops there. They're like, I did my part. We voted. We got somebody in here. And a lot of people just disengage because
I got this.
We're controlled, or we have things to distract us. So
I got this question. Do you think it was Obama's fault for not really campaigning, or that team campaigning for Hillary in the Midwest? That's why we lost a lot of these.
No, because I don't think Obama would have got Hillary those votes.
Yeah, and to be clear, Hillary set him on the bench. He didn't do it.
To be clear,
it wasn't him.
Hillary did not take him to task in any of the debates.
This is the Democratic, what do you call? This is the Democratic Party. So you're trying to protect the party. So you do what you can.
No, I'm saying that Hillary didn't ask for him, though. He didn't ask for her. She wanted him. She was afraid that he would lose votes because he was black and because he was, because of the numbers.
So look at the statistics on that. Obama may have been, until all the hate came out, all the rah-rah hate came out, may have been the most popular president ever.
Well, I mean, he was among black people for sure, but
you got black people, you have white women, and you have every minority, and plus
those people that
sprinkle in there.
I don't think Obama would have got Hillary the votes that she lost. The state she lost, Obama wasn't going to bring that in. They already were reacting. My thing is, they already reacting negatively to Obama being president. States like Ohio, states like Pennsylvania, who went to Obama.
He was also down in the polls when he was going for re-election. What did he do? Payne got him right back because Obama got a slick mouth. He
does, but I don't know if that would have. I think we have.
He got them votes in the second term.
But it's the overcorrection. It's like everybody always overcorrects for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like when I had a girlfriend that had no friends, I was like, okay, my next girlfriend gotta have friends, and I overdid it. I went with the woman who shit. I mean, I was like, damn, who don't you know, right? Like every time we go out, she telling me, let's go on a date. And next thing I know, 5 of her friends show up, or somehow we end up running into them, and she's saying, "Oh yeah, hang out with this the whole night." Everybody overcorrects, and I think you had a lot of people who voted for Obama who might still have some racist undertones in their life, who were like, "Oh no, we're overcorrecting now."
No.
I'm just saying might because I'm just not. If I don't know them, I'm not gonna go 100%. They probably do.
You can't be this naive. I'm
not being naive. I just don't. I never commit to how someone thinks.
I have a white woman friend.
Aaron don't have the licentia to say they're racist right now.
Right. I have a white
one. You're not using the term. At least I might have pronounced it wrong, but I used it right though.
I want to use lachitterans. Lachitterans. You got some lachitterans in the building? Because
probably.
One thing
you in Birmingham, they got some like chitlins down there.
Yes, sir.
One thing that I do think is that I think everyone in our country has been racialized, so has more or less racist beliefs either being put on them, or they're hearing it, it's imprinting on them, or they've internalized certain racist things. Like,
I mean, Clarence fucking Thomas, right? Like, we got plenty of black folks who are out.
I got a game for Pedro a little bit later, but I think that. I think where I think there's kind of I don't know if it's a misnomer or it's a piece of rhetoric that is so like it's in our history, it's in the knowledge base, and it's in our our cultural space that we throw that word around to like be the worst part of our country or perceived worst part of our country, even though it is still very active in how it shapes us or shapes our institutions and impacts real people's lives. But I think that like a lot of times people are like, that's reverse racism, or that's racist. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's racist, but I think it could be bigoted or this. Like, I think there is a difference when people are like, I'm not racist. I'm like, well, you are racialized. So you could be recycling or perpetuating racist tropes and beliefs that you've, have been imprinted on you. Does it mean that you're a bigot though? That you actually hate that person because they're that? Not necessarily. And I think people think that because if you're racist, you're a bigot. No, like there's racist things that you can do or say or engage in racist activities or behaviors. It doesn't make you a bigot. Now there is a difference between a bigot and a racist. There is a much overlap, I would say, but I think that's where discernment needs to be actually like spoken into like, our communities and our society about like, where is the differentiations? Because a lot of times you say something that was racist and people get so defensive, it shuts down the entire conversation. Well, doing something racist doesn't mean that you are a bigot or a hateful person. It means that you are perpetuating a form of racism.
So definitions matter. So I'm going to get into this, and we spend a lot of time. So I'm an ethnic studies professor. We do a lot of time because words matter, right? And so to understand that bigotry actually is a lesser of the offenses. So the idea of having a bigoted perspective, all of those things are born out of anecdotal or lived experiences, right? So your mama told you, your pastor told you, you lived this experience. And so you have a worldview that we can label as bigoted. It doesn't necessarily, mean, and that bigoted perspective can be racialized. So it can be based off of something which we would call racist, right? But I don't know that, it doesn't, having a bigoted perspective doesn't make you a bad person. And oftentimes what I try to get to people is to understand why people come to that, right? I think that the issue now is something that I heard a brother said. He said that like, when you know something, you can no longer believe it anymore, right? The belief and knowledge can't exist in the same space, right? Because knowledge, it comes from facts, and beliefs comes from the hope or the vision and I think that a lot of the bigoted perspectives you see articulated are not based off of facts. They're based off of these lived experiences, anecdotal experiences, right? That like ends up, and people call it wisdom. And that's the thing that like, it's this old school thing, like they call wisdom shit. They don't have any proof, right? And they call, knowledge, facts are the things that are question the facts, right? And the reality is, as an academic, a fact is about this moment in time, right? There's a fact that the Oakland A's are in Oakland. And that's a fact that's only true for a little bit, right? Because this motherfucker's about to leave us. So they're going to be going, right? And so
it can still fall through. It could still fall through.
It could still fall through. It could still. There is a 0.001% chance you are correct, sir. Which is why
that's my belief.
That should be I believe that it can fall through, right? But the facts line up to say that in the moment we know for a fact they are in Oakland, and that we know that that it is most likely they will end up somewhere else. And I think that that's where rhetoric really becomes important. And I think both for people who are conservative, who are influenced by anecdotal forces that sort of lead them to believe racist ass shit. In the same way for progressives who are influenced by forces that lead them to believe racist ass shit. Because the truth is, I know some people who supported Trump and who feel duped and were frustrated and were like, I made a bad choice. I feel bad. In the same way, I know a lot of Republicans who supported Obama who had buyer's remorse after that as well. So I'm saying to you that like the reality is, I think that we have to understand, and this is something I'm going to say to you, this is so important to me. As Americans, we have more in common than we have that separates us. And I think that tactically, our mistake is we focus so much on picking each other apart that we lose in the track with the fact that China is allied with Russia, is allied with Saudi Arabia, and they're making a move on the globe right now. And we are caught up in fucking with shit that don't matter. And fighting each other over shit that don't matter instead of focusing on what truly is the enemy of our way of life. Like foundationally, the biggest change in America will be where the dollar is not the currency of the world. The biggest change will be when the yen is the currency of the world. That is going to hit us harder than all this bullshit that we're focused on now. And I just think that's the foundational issue I have with where we are as a people, as a country. And so for me, my desire, my wish for Black folks is to just focus on doing stuff to sort of lift us up, right? So I'm a professor at CSU system. I'm working on this project called the Black Excellence Project, and our goal is to try to increase enrollment, increase retention, increase graduation of Black folks, and to build pathways to work for Black folks in California, right? So that we can keep Black folks in California because we understand the value of diversity. It's not about tokenage, the way that people understand it. It's about the fact that we have different people in the audience that we're trying to sell to. And the more people we have making shit that understands that diversity, the better, the more shit we're going to sell, right? So it's a capitalistic principle, diversity is. It's a financial principle. And so I think that's the arguments that I'm making right now that tactically put me in alignment with business, that tactically put me in alignment with other groups who can also benefit from this sort of focus. And so that's where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm lifting Black folks through finding alignment and finding partnerships that does it. And I think that, yes, the SCOTUS shit sucks. It's a reflection of America's shifting right, right? But you know, it doesn't mean that I have less in common with those folks than I did. And I think that's the piece that I come at people with. I'm like, fuck it. All right, y'all disagree with me on that. But overall, we don't want the end to take over, right? So we need to get refocused. And so we need to graduate people. We need to build a strong workforce. And I think that's the type of leadership we need, is to get people out of this sort of dichotomy bullshit and into the work that really helps us. And I think having freaky sex is the key to that.
Yeah, freaky.
Wait a minute, hold on. I was about to ask you a serious question about.
I like how he brought it back to
Black. Yeah, brought it back to freaky sex, and I was going to ask you a serious question about how do we bring Black people into the more of a technological way of earning money, and more of a instead of just being entertainers. Because I'm getting tired of the entertain. Like, hey,
don't get tired of that wealth creating industry. The fuck wrong with you, man? You got to stop. Don't be fucking with the money, bro.
That can't be the only way. That's like the only way out for Black people. That's what's just stealing our kids.
It's not though. It's a lie. That's a false narrative as well. The majority of Black people are not making their money being basketball players and baseball players and fucking.
No.
But I'm saying that the majority of us are lawyers. No, I'm just saying that. I'm saying, but the story is, I'm just saying it's dangerous for us to be repeating the story as that's we need. I'm not tired of them making money. A lot of them are investing in bakers, chefs, and they spend a lot of money in their communities. And so it's really good to have that revenue in. But I do agree with you. We do need to build alternative paths to work. And here's my answer. Right now, technology is at a new place. And so it's really at a place where nobody's really got their hands around things like VR, right? Or AI, right? That stuff is really, people are still trying to get their hands around it. So it's a great opportunity for us to expose Black folks to it because nobody else is ahead of them on any of that work. And so to me, that's what I'm doing. So the work I'm doing is building STEAM opportunities for Black folks to build pathways to work, choosing industries that are really hot in the area that we're in, and preparing our kids for it, and connecting them with people so they can see themselves as scientists in junior high school, community college, all the way through college. They can see themselves as scientists, see a pathway to work. I'm with you. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I'm told. Yeah. See, I know what was going on and how you was going about that. That's exactly what I've been talking about.
But Colin Kaepernick want to cut a check. Colin, thank you, brother. If you want to support this work, right, I'm so glad.
Tyler Perry, you want to cut a check?
Right.
Medea.
OJ Simpson, you want to cut a check?
OJ broke.
OJ, so he got his pension.
He got his pension. He living off that pension.
He got a lot of money took.
Yeah,
he spent a lot of money.
OJ, how do you think OJ is sitting up in golf courses making videos, Jerry?
He got pension, man. He got money. OJ ain't broke.
Yeah, but he ain't got the money like he once did.
It's all good, man. We all get humbled, right? And that's the other piece, man.
I still take a check.
We all get
I think what Pedro's getting at is like the bigger blanket or scheme of what is, like we were talking about, like what's presented to you as a means of opportunity, or what is being thrown at you most consistently as your way to be successful is, varies based upon how you identify with this very image-based media system, I think. So like, how do you identify and where do you see your avenues? And I think that's what Pedro is getting at. And I think it had another question, kind of leads into another question I have for you. So like, with Black people and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears and just the work that they've put in, labor and time into, having built the foundations of this country and these markets, there is a certain level of, I would say, entitlement. Like, we are entitled to things that we haven't. We were promised, reparations, right? Or promised 40 acres and a mule. Or we are entitled to our fair share, which we've been legislated out of racistly or creatively. But how do we control a narrative, or what would be a creative way for us to create a narrative that we express our entitlement, or we present what we are entitled to, without being once again spun and flipped to being too what are some of the
long-winded question, Jared?
I just what are some of the ways?
You can't ask the question after a long.
What are some of the ways? Like they'll spin the narrative, like, now you're being loud and uppity. The uppity Negroes. Loud and flashy. You haven't earned it. This, that, and the other. Is ways that they will spin it when Black people do affirm themselves and step forward and say, I am entitled to this, that, and the other. In your way, working in media, what would be, an effective avenue or methodology for that?
So it's two things. First of all, I appreciate your long ass question, and I'm gonna do my best to address that shit as a professional that I am, despite the fact that it didn't make no goddamn sense. But that's cool.
Thank you.
It's cool. So I would say that one thing, just speaking of the work that I'm doing, so the Black Excellence Project is really centered at CSU. So we launched this at Cal State East Bay. And the goal was to center Black student stories. So it was just Black student success stories as a counter narrative to the notion of what Black folks in education, like people say, but it's such a hard thing and people are struggling, right? And it's true, based off the percentages, Black folks do struggle through higher ed. So telling those stories of how people made it, but then them sharing how they made it, right? As a way to inspire people who are looking to enroll, it's inspiring people who are currently enrolled, inspiring people to graduate. So I think that is a part of it. So I think we do need to shift the storytelling. And what I'm trying to push the CSU to do, the Chancellor's Office to do for the whole CSU, is to change that narrative, right? Lifting up. And that's at the core of what we do. But beyond changing the narrative, we need to also make sure that the Black students' lived experiences in these spaces are different, right? So listening to the words they say and looking at resourcing the type of changes that they lift up. In particular, what I'm doing is identifying assets that the students say work for them, particular faculty members, particular programs, particular departments, that they say it helped them to achieve success, figuring out how we amplify those things, how do we find the right partners for those things, how do we get resources to those assets. So as opposed to taking a deficit approach, which is about, I always tell people that I don't want to be a firefighter. I think they're cool people, but it's not my shit. I'm a gardener, right? So I'm looking at planning assets, right? And cultivating assets, as opposed to looking at the shit that's not going well and fighting and chopping it down and trying to fight. So that's my energy in the way that I flow. And that's what I believe is an answer on one of those fronts. I think the other part of this, though, in the long-windedness that you were trying to get to into like some shit that you were saying and the pile of grits, is that we have to love ourselves in a different way. Like, it's just a real foundational storytelling piece to understand that, like, Black folks are overrepresented in terms of elected officials, right? We tell the story of struggle oftentimes, but we don't lift those things that are awesome, right? And Black folks were among the leaders of computer science as it evolved, right? There's some great figures that we can point to that did great work. And I think that's a part of it too. So moving outside of Cal State East Bay and the rest of the CSUs that we're trying to storytell, I think we need to hear more of those stories of Black greatness, not as a MLK figure, right? Like not in these like sort of comic book ass figures, but into regular ass people that people can identify with, people who sort of built things for their family and built wealth for their families. Because the truth is that being in America affords us a lot of opportunities, and it's the myth of access to the American dream really requires them to let a few people actually access the American dream, right? So it's really just us getting up on game, preparing the next generation for game. It requires us to be leaders, right? It requires us to stop being popular, right? To stop running against oppression and that fucked up shit. People doing so many fundraisers based off of SCOTUS decision. Fuck that. I don't need to raise money off of that. Like, again, that's just them being them. It reminds us of what our duties have to be in the short term, right? To choose the lesser of two evils so that we can get a better step. But our long-term and our mid-range and long-term strategies have to be about identifying assets and about resourcing those assets so that we can build to a better future. And I think the upside is what the brother said earlier, is like we have an opportunity to pivot into technologies that haven't been developed yet. We had an opportunity to pivot into industries that are at the precipice of growing. And so let's just be great. The fuck, we've done it so many times. We put our energy into that as opposed to being mad and then going to fuck back to your sorry ass job, right? Or going to drink beer with your friends and shit, just being mad. Fuck being mad, bro. It's time to get to work. Y'all got me. I'm in this. And let's just get to work. And if people are confused, right? The people don't know. People get confused and they don't know what they should be doing. And I'm happy to point you to people who are leading in that area, man. Let's get it. I mean, that's what I feel right now. I feel like we just got to get out of this whole thing of being like a fighting against shit all the time. And we need to get into the thing of knowing what we stand for, right? Like, and it's a blessing, man. It feels so much better to be fighting for an asset than it does to be fighting against a deficit. And so that's
being a fixer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that long ass question, Jared. Now I forgot what I wanted to ask.
Well, I tell you, I'm glad to hear you say that, because you know what, I battle people too, especially some of our brothers that I tell, look, I'm an American, man. I had a family member fight in Vietnam, lost one, had two uncles, had family, my uncles, my mom's uncles are all fought in World War II. I'm American as I don't have no place else, right? I wasn't born. My parents weren't born someplace else. I have nowhere else I relate to.
You're a man with no country.
I'm a man with this country.
That's all.
No, it don't belong to you. It don't belong to black folks.
It don't belong to anybody.
I hear you say that shit. Who the fuck? If it don't belong to us, who the fuck does it belong to?
Then it don't belong to anybody.
The indigenous.
Why Jesus?
May white God bless you, Robert.
Why Jesus?
But here's the thing. Like I said, I like to hear you. I'm glad you said those things. This is all I got. I said the same thing when people were coming talking to me about the Supreme Court decision. I told people that I talked to about that call me. It's like, can you believe this? And I said, oh, how am I not supposed to believe it? You see who the Supreme Court justice is? I was like, we're just in a conservative time. There's other people that lived in those conservative times. Maybe you're not used to it, but we're back in it again. Right?
And there were liberal black folk who made millions in conservative times. Let's be clear, like that's the focus. The focus has to be on winning and not like necessarily on the struggle. So I get it, and it deserves focus, right?
But it does, but you're not going to change the Supreme Court's opinion right now, right? Instead of fighting against it, like you said, you go ahead and you strive for those other things we got right now. Like when someone told me, "Oh man, you see what happened?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I was at UC Berkeley from '94. I started '94, '95, 209, and all that passed, and it was shut down. So I already saw the effects. It already affected me then, right? Mm-hmm. Look, and people can still strive and make it forward and make it through.
Most definitely. And I mean, I think it's easy to focus on what you don't have.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's one of the pieces that I try not to put my energy into. I mean, you have the freedom to pursue as many white women as you want, Jared. And that's really a blessing. I mean, I'm serious as fuck.
Every day I am disappointed in what I don't have, what I have not achieved.
Right. But I'm saying the freedom you have to do that is actually not available to you in every space. There are certain people you're not allowed to date. certain people you were not allowed to be with if you were in certain places. And so I think that that's a piece that's important. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't protest. It doesn't mean that we don't stand up against it, right? Because it's important in a way, like the same way that Barack getting voted in was important. I agree with Brother P. Funk. You know, I don't know that he did a whole bunch of shit, but he did a whole bunch of shit. Because there's aesthetically and then there's functionally, right? So we live in these worlds. So aesthetically, he changed the fucking game. Aesthetically, there is now a black man on that whole list of white men who were in this country. There's a black man there, and aesthetically, that was a shit.
Expanded the capacity, you know.
Functionally, he didn't move us far away from those core values. A lot of black people got killed under Barack Obama by cops, right? So there was no magic, you know, there's no Barack magic Negro effect that we expected it to all come.
Military industrial complex, you know, continue to expand and grow.
Spying on Americans.
Yeah.
He did that for his buddies in his corporation, you know, his corporation buddy. Hey.
But
Pedro gonna throw him under the bus, man. He did it for corporation.
No. He did it. Where am I not telling the truth? He's got to do favors to stay in the pot.
Well, campaigning costs money.
It does.
Well, but politics. So politics is designed in the same way that the middle class was designed, right? So the middle class is designed to give people the illusion of upward mobility. And so in it, on the edges, you do see some of that upward mobility. And in politics, you do see the ability to make some changes. But really, it was designed, this whole system was built for corporations, right? Corporations were created at the foundation of the country, right? So the capitalism is at the core of our democracy. And capitalism and democracy are not necessarily the best bedfellows, right? But it was created in that way. So yeah, this thing is designed that way, in the same way that for us to act like affirmative action is not necessary because we act as if the system was designed to treat everybody equally. It was not. It was designed to treat people differently. Education evolved to keep the have-nots trained to serve the haves, right? Yeah. The evolution of Black humanity in this country was from slavery, right, through the present, right? And so that Black humanity went on that same journey. So it's not like anything has shifted, right? These things have often stayed the same. I think that we have just been in times where the ebb has been awesome and it's felt good because we felt so much different, right? I always say the history is not linear. It's like the ocean, right? And so I think that when we're in it and the ocean is surging, you feel like there's no limit to what you're doing. But for me, I understand that it's about to be recession. It does it every time, right? Every time the moon shifts, you're gonna go back, right?
And that was my question towards you when trying to get get the younger youth and having them earn, have different avenues of earning money. Us being behind the 8 ball now with all this casino climate money that was injected during COVID, I was going to ask you how are you able to get funding with people that it's a little less out here now for people.
So I don't.
The cost, transportation's high. Cost of living's high. So how do you navigate that in this time?
California is the 4th largest economy in the world. And so, yes, we are down, but fuck, we got a shitload of money. So I think the idea is really moving away from the deficit mindset holistically. So I am an asset-based person on all fronts. And it comes to getting resources. I talk to people and I'll be like, yeah, y'all took how many $1 million from Black folks who you didn't give degrees to, right? So I go to the chancellor's office and I'm like, so I know y'all have a big deficit issue, but y'all can't keep taking money from Black people and not giving them degrees, right? Because if we do that, that's bad PR. That story doesn't play very well, right? So, just for me, I see an opportunity. I see assets as opposed to seeing that. And I know I also come at it a different way because I guess being a Black man from Alabama, I have a little bit of a sense of like, I understand that like my conservative brothers and sisters, actually, we mostly want the same thing, right? We just see the world differently, right? So you understand that. then you understand that I can find a friend in any room, right? That's something my mama gave me, right? I can find a friend in any room. So the idea is, let's find those things tactically where we are aligned, and let's find a way to get at this, that same goal together. So I think that, for me, that's what I see. I don't think that there's a lack of resources. I think there's a lack of resources, which means that people get more selective about where they spend their dough. But if you got a good ideas are going to get funded always, right? The bad ideas, which would have got funded in an economy that's more robust, no longer get funded. But good ideas are always going to be funded and necessary. That's
so you telling me a bad idea is having a fast food, soul food restaurant with a drive-through?
I mean, that's a very specific example.
I had a really good underfunded idea. I was gonna, start a microwave quesadilla restaurant, and nobody wanted to put in on that.
The Taco Bell beat you to that, though.
Yeah.
But they also got much better microwaves than what I could afford from my funding.
He come with the school, the microwave left in the school's staff lounge. That some teacher moved on and upgraded.
I was gonna call it "What's the Dilla?" I thought it was gonna be a good spot.
No, I think any good idea will get funded. Especially a good idea with the right people in place. Maybe Jared wasn't the right person for the microwave idea, but any good idea with the right people in place are going to get funded. So that's where I live. I live in that space, and so I have found that it's worked out, for me. And so whenever I run into an idea that I pitch and it doesn't get funded, I accept the reality that I was probably not the right person or it was not the right moment, right? So you just have to be humble in that sense and pivot to the next thing, because the reality is there's always a thing.
I think that's hard. It's one of the harder things. Like, as a younger person, as growing into your young adulthood, there is this concept of stasis. Like the cartoons I saw as a kid, I thought, man, it's been on forever, man. I want my parents, you think that these things have these longer windows as you're, saying growing up in the world, and that imprints on you and affects the way you I think you engage the world. But like, there's so much that's always changing. There's so many things that have their runs, that have their windows. So many, like you said, failed ideas that come back around and end up, catching later on. And so I think instilling that kind of that framework or that knowledge base into our youth will be so valuable. That wisdom into our youth to be able to things aren't stasis. Things are, ever changing. It's hard for a young mind to, wrap your head around that. That comes with age and experience. But I think that and the sense of gratitude, I think our country for sure is based on, we're saying entitled, our country has the American dream, and you can live, this is the greatest country in the world, you can live your best life. So people, without understanding the type of work that goes into it and this, the moving parts that make this society work, you get people who become complacent or disenfranchised a lot easier. And I think the people in power want that to happen. They want there to be a dissonance or this non-alignment with the spouses of our ideals and the actuality that people live through, and that comes also with knowledge. So I think that the more we kind of teach the foundations of gratitude, like you're saying, and being appreciative of what we do have, so we see it not from what we don't have, but what we do have, and what can be great and what we can do with what we have, on top of this is my time, this is our time, and as families, as people, transcending through these periods of time together to continue to grow and cultivate, as a philosophy it'd be tight. But then again, I just watch a regular internet all the time, and I see people twerking with children in a pool last week. So
well, I think that not in a yes a boss sort of way, right? But in a way that really is appreciative, right? And I think it's really about us getting knowledge, and really embracing this whole knowledge of what the fuck is going on in the world that we're in, right? And in France right now, what's going on, right? So the reality is that when you realize that some of the stuff that you're struggling with may not be an American thing, it could not be a California thing or a Texas thing, right? That some of these things are global things. There's a power to that to help you understand that there's a context there that shifts your tactics away from being localized tactics to understanding that there's global sense, that I can go look for resources outside of the country, right? Because I may have brothers and sisters in Africa who understand the struggle that we're having, and they see the value of lifting up Black folks in America that may help them, right? That narrative, that story, that pathway we blaze might help their country. So understand that we may have our lives outside of the spaces we sit. And I think that's the powerful thing of an asset-based mindset, right? Is you start looking for solutions as opposed to living in the problems. And I think, I most definitely am at the, mid to later side of this work, right? And so for me, it's just like, I feel like, it's time for me to teach young brothers that we, Black folks, man, have an amazing story. It's an amazing story. And it started with, some very hardship, but the fact that we were able to have the trajectory we had based off of that beginning is an amazing story. It's something to be proud of. And I think it really, that's the stuff. We have assets in our community. We do. And I think that's the piece that's important. I posted this thing the other day. It was this, I think it was La Russell was playing at Lemire Park. And in it, he dropped the N word like many times. And then I was like thinking to myself, many conversations I've had with scholars, right, who are like, oh man, you can't be supporting that. You can't lift up work. And I was like, man, my dad told me that those people who control the rhetoric control society, and that we as Black folk cannot ignore each other because we don't like the words that we use. We have to really understand and get to the meaning of what it's about, right? And to hear what it is. And I think that it's a disservice for us not to listen to the wisdom of our youth just because of the language we don't like, right? So I think that's the piece that one of the things I'm learning, and I'm trying to be humble about, like, oh, just because they didn't say it the way I want to say it, because you may have saw it a little bit different because you're from the South, or you're from Texas, or you're from the Midwest or the Northeast or wherever, that I have to be better at listening so I can hear what it is your intentions are, as opposed to listening to the negative. Because if you're looking for deficits, you'll find them always. But if you're looking for assets, it sometimes requires a little bit extra work, right, for you to see those assets. And I think of you, all three of you, as assets for our community. And hopefully I've added a little bit value in the time we spent together, because we're in this together, man.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, La Russell it's been great to see his growth, and it being like, all like pretty much him and his family doing it, like, like not selling out to not selling out, but I say selling out, but not, saying just falling into the typical like just get signed by a label and let them control what you do, and him really growing it organically. I've seen a couple artists that I've followed online that I see growing their following pretty organically and independently, and it's like that's really dope and beautiful to see. I actually messaged him and he said he'd be down to do the show one of these days, so one of these days might be able to get you and him, La Russell, on the same time, and we'll work on that. We'll work on getting him on here. Awesome. But Mark Dean is the Black man who had the computer that as Dave Chappelle said in as Conspiracy Brother.
The computer. Another idea stolen from the black man.
Mark Dean was the one who worked IBM in the 80s and invented the PC. So bring that up. So I had to look that up. He was part of our Black History Month Jeopardy last year. Aaron, remember that?
Nope.
But yeah, and speaking on the N-word, just real quick, I had a conversation with a friend, and he's not of the culture, so like, but for him, like the concept was like black and white, and I'm like, it's very nuanced. There's, and one thing that I thought about, working in middle school, we got a lot, these young Black boys are, coming into their own, and you're starting to hear the N-word being thrown around as these young brothers are. And I don't know, it is a tough question of like, where do you say, hey, like, what's our standard or how we're going to conduct ourselves? This is a place of education. This is you are in school, so we want to conduct ourselves a certain way. But also, like, when you are communicating, and you're communicating with another person of color, another Black person, let's say, and that word is coming up, like, just be conscientious of who also is around you that's hearing it, because I think there is still some importance and value in that. Although it's in our music, although it's in the media, although it's, I can go online and I can see videos of people, all different types of backgrounds, using that word. Just like that's I guess that's the lens that I'm coming at it from, trying to be open to understanding, like, there is, it is become its own part of American culture, Black culture, and thus American culture. So, like, how do we, I wouldn't say govern it, but how do we effectively, utilize another component of our lived experience and language to express ourselves, to bring other communities into understanding us, but also, like, where do we also draw our lines of, like, what is sacred to us to some degree? And I don't know if the N word is something that we consider sacred anymore, or if that was ever something that we considered sacred. But I think that there is a continued conversation amongst our community about how we utilize that word, because I think there is a value based in it, that because there's a value placed on us as property, that it has some pervasive and just underlying themes that I think negatively or positively affect us based upon when it's used, who's using it, and to the amount that it's being used in our society nowadays.
I think words matter. I mean, that's the piece that I tell people all the time. Words matter. And so as intellects, I tell my students who have gone and they're now scholars, I was like, we have to stop co-signing on bullshit. So we as scholars, when we know something, you have a knowledge of something, you can't co-sign on bullshit. But then with that, you also can't, my dad always said that you're an educator to be a resource to your community. You got educated to be a resource to your community, not to necessarily lead your community, right? And so I think that when you're engaging with the community, you can't let rhetoric pull you apart, right? You can't be so bought into the system, right? That's a piece of systemic racism, right? So, like, you don't talk this way, so I don't accept you. You don't have any value. I think you miss out on allies that way. So I think that we have to be more discerning about who we bring on. Like, so I am not going to be using the N-word in front of my classroom. I am not going to be using the N-word if I'm rocking to Rick Ross and I'm pulling up next to a young white kid next to me, I'm conscientious of that. In particular, if people know me as a professor in that moment, like, I don't want to co-sign on bullshit, but I listen to Rick Ross, right? And, or, there are moments where I may use the N-word with people depending on the context of it, right? And so I think it's really nuanced, and we have to not be so in love with the master's language, right, that we lead things that way. I think it's important for me, like, when I hear people say anti-gay shit, I am not making it every conversation where I'm calling them on it, right? Like, it's just not constructive in the sense of, like, what I'm trying to build. Now, they know where I stand. I don't co-sign on the bullshit, right? I'm not like, oh yeah, fuck them. Da-da-da. I'm like, that's not my perspective. If you ask me my opinion, I'm gonna tell you my opinion, right? But I don't think it's my requirement that I lead on everything in that way. And oftentimes when you're trying to push your own agenda, your own dogma, you lose track of what your community needs, right? I'm a community servant, and the community don't need me to be the guy, the N-word police. The community don't need me to be the B-word police. The community don't need me to be the anti-gay police, right? So it's just not that's not what they need me to do. And so I don't take away my resources from the community just because I don't like the words that they're using. So it is it's an important thing, I think, to not co-sign on bullshit, but to also to not make everything be about that to the point that you lose out on having important conversations. Like I say, in America, we're having conversations about a lot of shit that don't really fucking matter because we're focused on the shit we don't agree on, as opposed to being focused on the shit we agree on. People in America should be able to work and make a fucking living.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that shit as a group, like the whole American. We want to be able to make a living without working 12 jobs. Wouldn't it be awesome to work one motherfucking job that you half-ass liked and to make enough money to live off of? I'm saying that is the shit we should be fighting for together. Yeah. Fuck affirmative action. Everybody should have school paid for. Anybody that want to go to college should get fucking let into college, right?
Maybe SCOTUS is working on that. They be like, we get rid of affirmative action because now everyone gets college free. Clack, clack. Next week, it's going to drop.
Right. That could be, but I'm saying tactically, that's how we have to move. It's like now we got new allies who too just got their ass whooped. And so it gives us that. And I think that's the energy for me. When you're asset based, then you can't be like the deficits, like, oh, I don't like the N-word, so I'm gonna be the N-word police. And I was like, nah, man, I don't like the N-word for me, but like, man, D-Smoke be kicking some lyrics. La Russell be kicking lyrics. And so they use that in their lyrics that they kick, but they still are talking about shit that has value. So I'm not gonna be like, I'm not listening to them and all the brilliance they have because they use the N-word, but yet I am not necessarily co-signing on it, right? So I'm not then also saying what's up, but I'm conscious of that. So I don't know. That's the way I approach it, right? Because I believe like I don't want to shut down shit, but I also, man, I do agree, man. It's important that, I think the N-word matters. I think that the N-word as a, I think that it can be empowering and you can do all that shit. But all that shit is just you justifying like some bullshit. Like it's not best. It's not a best practice, right? To use the N-word as a way to describe ourselves. It's not a best practice. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why I tried to put in astronaut. What's up, my astronauts? How you doing, I'm flying high, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I like that shit. Let's just come up with a new thing and make it fly as fuck like black people do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got some work to do. To our community out there, give us a new word we can replace the N-word with that rolls off the tongue, that we can flip it up. Pedro can't say astronaut. It's too many syllables. All right, Jared,
sound like you about to focus on something silly.
Anyways, no, yeah, I agree though. I do agree with many of your points there. Well, how much time do you have left? Do you need?
I'm glad you said that because I argue with people with the N-word on this show before.
Oh yeah, no.
I've gotten in a lot of arguments, and I use the N-word.
He's been one of our better people about not using it.
I just said I don't like. We have an audience that isn't one that I would like or prefer to use the N-word around me, and if that's the case, I don't want to normalize it for them. Right? I don't want people who we know shouldn't be using the N-word to use it. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's my whole thing. I always felt like I felt like growing up, I don't know if it had to be have parents with Alabama roots or this and that. You learn how to use the N-word in a very it was also part of code switching, right? And I didn't use the N-word, and I went to schools that were more diverse. I bust out to the Valley from LA, so I went from this all black area to a diverse school, and it was not just myself, other black people there. We were really much code switching with the N-word. We didn't use it when our white friends or Latin friends or whoever came around, right? We used it in terms with each other, but not in front of other people. I've been sort of that way with this show. I mean, I've used it a few times. I used it quite more than a few times on this show.
Man, 2 weeks ago during Father's Day, the Father's Day show,
I was upset. I was upset. See, that's the difference. That had some emotion behind it. So that was actually using it the right way, but not just blowing it out for no reason.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's how you know Aaron. That's when you know you triggered Aaron, and he'll start dropping this nigga.
Yeah, I might start dropping. I might start sounding like that preacher from Harlem.
Oh, you talking about JD Manning? Shout out to JD Manning.
Well, I won't say what he say. I just might start sounding like him, but I won't say it.
I love JD Manning.
That's Pedro. That's Pedro. Pedro was trying to sign up for his church, but how'd that go, Pedro?
Might not be in existence.
I think it's still there.
I got a lot of white resources from it. I'll tell you
that. Shit. All right, well, y'all ready to start the show?
Shut the hell up, man. 45 minutes into it, or 40 minutes into it, you're gonna say you're ready to start.
Well, I want to give you one story, and I did a book review on a book called Teaching Black History to White People. It's by a brother by the name of Leonard Moore. Is produced by the University of Texas Press.
Can you get that to Florida real fast? Can you get it down to Florida real fast?
Well, I mean, man, it's probably immediately put on the banned book list, right? but the brother, he talked about this one thing that I love. He gave this example, and he's like, it's called the Monopoly example, right? So it's like in the game Monopoly, we all know there's house rules, right? So people have rules set up, and they, you can take this, and this is when you can collect money, and if you land on prison visitation, then you get the cash or not, right? And so if you think about Monopoly in America, right, the house rules we couldn't own property, right? We couldn't own property, right? We couldn't own property. We couldn't buy shit. We had to basically be in servitude for the first few times first few decades, you know what I'm saying, around the board, right? A couple of centuries around the board. And that is sort of where we are now in this moment where they're making this decision. They're like, no, it's unfair for you to consider the fact that the rules in this set it up where you couldn't get access to education, right? Until much later than the other people on the board. Now things are equal. So since in this moment things are equal, it's unfair of us to make them unequal, to try to balance that out, right? And so it is the highest form of gaslighting that you can see at the, from the highest level. From SCOTUS, thank you for giving us an example of gaslighting. Now we can put it in a dictionary. This vote against affirmative action, because you're saying that it's racist for us to consider race now, but the impact of us considering the race for centuries, that is okay. We move beyond that, right? And I think that is the important piece when people are trying to have real conversations about this moment that we're having. It is like the game of Monopoly, except for in this game, education is the core and the key to people making dough, right? And even in that sense, when we do get educated, we make 59K is our salary. I think it's 76K is what white folks are making with degrees. So even if we happen to make it into the school, right?
We make 70 cents to the dollar to them or something like that. Yeah. Same crazy thing as women to men. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important to get that. And so for me, that is the case. That is sort of the thing that our ancestors they argued before us. And I'm sad to say, that the next generation may be arguing after me. But my job is to frame it and to give you as much ammo as you can, right? To give you as much tools as possible and to tell you to look for assets. Like, let's look for assets and let's build this future together. And let's not stay focused on the deficits, right? I think that we're human for the same way. If your woman says some shit to you that didn't make no damn sense, you're going to feel some type of way about it. But as leaders in this community, right, we can't be so caught up in that relationship frustration, right? That the way it came out, we have to be looking at the future. How do we build that future for our family? In the case of me and the brother who actually have family, for you trifling ass Negroes who are out here, chasing. Yeah, I'm saying whatever way, whatever way the metaphor works for y'all. But I'm saying that's the way we have to build our community. Yeah. We have to build our community in that way, right? We have to build where we don't get caught up in frustrations with the way somebody said something or how this thing plays out in this moment, or the fact that some of our friends are excited about us losing access to college. Like, the fuck? Like, type of shit is that? America is fighting itself again. Here we go again. And I think that we really have to say, it's for the good of our people holistically. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, man. I'm trying to find community with folks, common goals, and I don't see nothing but resources around us to make this stuff happen, and again, it weeds out all the bad ideas. So no more soul food drive-thrus, no more quesadillas and microwaves. Only top tier ideas will get funded, but we can still fund these things that really are making sense. And so that's what I'm trying to do out here, y'all.
How about oxtail tacos?
Yeah, how about oxtail microwave quesadillas?
Yep. Those are bad ideas. But
Bad
it's, one, I do appreciate that y'all have the confidence to put those badass ideas out there as if they're good.
I don't because the people with their bad ideas and now all the hipsters and white people got used to eating oxtails and now it's at $11 a pound right now. I can't afford it.
Hey, how about this idea, Prof? How about I have this water truck and I call it a drive-by car wash?
Right.
Come on. I used to make oxtails 5 to 6 times a year. Now I'm down to 1.
So it sounds like we need to have some basic economics. We need to have a basic economics conversation.
We do. I need to get rid of.
You need to go to the Asian market,
now.
Aaron. You've been going to the Asian market, Chinatown, to get oxtails. They're probably a little cheaper.
I gotta try that next. I'll try that next.
Problem is, you shopping at some of them expensive grocery stores. And
man, I went to a cheap grocery store. Still, it was $11 in a Safeway.
Yeah.
No, it is. Maybe God's trying to tell you to stop eating those oxtails.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Tell somebody tell God I'm gonna die without it.
leave it to those white people is what it's saying. Let it bleed.
Tell God I'm gonna die without it, God.
You're gonna die without them oxtails. All right.
Need me some oxtails.
Duly noted.
Well, you down to just do our introductions real quick? Because I think this has been a great conversation overall.
We never introduced ourselves?
We never did introductions. That way we do introductions, and I'll probably do like a post edit where I'll like just be like, this is the conversation that was had. But like, because I think that, everything we talked about was poignant. But yeah. So I
love the big words you use, Jared. You've been educated by some fine individuals.
I read just enough books in high school to mildly know when to use some of them, but we'll see.
Man,
I got the big vocabulary. I'm glad you're on the show because he finally get a chance to use it.
I love it. It's good stuff.
I'm hoping you get it all out of the system.